we're going to talk about the will to stay. That's what we're going to talk about, the will to stay. Jesus, in our story, gives his disciples some very, very simple and some very, very easy instructions. He tells them simply, I need you to stay here and to keep watch. Stay here, keep watch. Now, keep watch means just stay alert, stay awake. That's what I need you to do. Stay here, stay awake with me, right? And this should have been something that was so easy and simple for them to do, especially because right after that, Jesus starts to tell them about what he's feeling. Now, Christ tells us oftentimes where this is the first time we've ever seen him in a bad spot. But for him to say he's anguished and distressed, you would think in your mind would have made you have a little more oomph for you to stay and stay awake when God asks you to do something with him, right? So he's upset, he's sad, he's sorrowful, he's grieved, he's having a hard time, and he's anxious. And all of this stuff is because Jesus is in what I like to call a struggle. He's in a deep struggle that he's going through right now. And so what he did was he took this deep struggle and he went on off and he went to pray with his Father. Now, he's in a struggle because Jesus can already see what's getting ready to come. Christ can tell it's that time. Y'all know how that is when it's that time, right? When you can feel it's that time. The thing you didn't want to do, it's that time. You're getting ready to start something you don't want to start. It's that time. He can see the cross. He knows what's coming. He knows the lashes and the ridicule and the spitting on him and the thorns in his head and the piercing of his side and the nails in his hands and in his feet. He knows death is coming. He knows the grave is coming. He knows great pain is coming. He knows betrayal is coming. He knows that people are going to leave him. He knows what's coming. And in all of that, I want you guys to realize that Christ is God. But in this text, he's also fully man. And I want y'all to get that because we put Jesus, rightfully so, as this high thing, and we forget that he was also a man. He was also a human being like you and I, flesh and blood. And in this text, what's getting ready to happen is Jesus is getting ready to do something extremely human. God has done everything. He's walked on water. He's fed thousands. He gave people their sight back. He's made the deaf and dumb come back to where they're supposed to be. But in this part, where we find him at in this particular part of the text on today, Stefan, he is showing his human side. And in his manness, in his humanness, he asked God to do something that was extremely human. He asked God to change the plan. He said, God, can you change the plan? A plan that you and I made together. Ain't that crazy? Y'all, we made this plan. And yet you're asking God, can we change the plan? That destiny, that's like you and your mama coming together to do your room. And now it's time to paint it the color that you picked out. And you said that you wanted to do. And now here's the hard work and you getting ready to do that. And you saying, you know what? Can we change the plan? Can we do something a little? I'm not feeling this right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And he's having a problem. In Jesus' weakest hour, he's struggling to stay in his purpose. He's struggling to stay on his plan because he is a man and he's having a hard time. And because of the fact that it is a struggle to stay. I need you to understand, those of you that are having any time where you're struggling, you have been following what God has given you to do. You are on the path that God has led you to. And you come into a point where you start to think, I don't know if I can stay here. You're having a Jesus experience. I want y'all to start wording it that way. Instead of I'm in spiritual warfare and I'm going through it and I'm down and out and the devil coming after me and I don't know if I can, just know you having a Jesus experience because that's what God was having right here. He was not ready to do this. He was trying to figure out how he can get around. He's trying to avoid something that he was destined for him to do since the beginning. And Jesus is at war in this moment. Not just with the disciples, no, who don't seem to understand what he's been telling them is getting ready to come forward. They can't even stay awake. And he's getting ready to go to the cross. Not just that, not just with the Pharisees and Sadducees, no, who have already gotten to his camp. They found them a traitor and is getting ready to come and get him moments from where we are in the text right now. No, not just with the devil, who he's always been willing to take out and knew it was his assignment for him to defeat. No, not just with sin only, which he was brought here to do to break us free from. Not just that, he's at war with himself. He's going through a problem and an issue and an internal struggle that is happening within him to stay where he's at. He's fighting hard to stay. He's fighting hard with himself. Oh, y'all ain't never done that. Y'all ain't never fought with yourself. You ain't never said, I know I should, but I kind of, or I know I shouldn't, but maybe what I'm saying? Like, this really isn't what I need to be doing. But I don't really think it's going to be that. Fighting within yourself, right? For 33 years, he's been in his purpose. He's prayed for everybody. He's done everything he's supposed to do. But right now, we find the man that is Jesus in a deep struggle to stay. Y'all say stay. Stay. He's trying to stay. And so he says, my Father. And he says it with an exclamation point. So I want y'all to know he didn't pray lightly. That's why he went away. Because him and God had some stuff to talk about, and he didn't want to do that in front of the other disciples. And so he says, my Father, exclamation, Dad, hello, it's me, your son. If it's possible, in all of your grandness, in everything that you have, how you put the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky, and how you created the waters and you separated the sea, I've seen the glory of the Lord, and I know what you're capable of. So if it is possible to let this particular little thing called this cup of suffering I got going on to be taken away from me, can we do that? But if not, I want your will to be done. Let me put it in words y'all to understand. God, I followed you faithfully, and I love you, and I believe you love me, and the path has led me to this. And I don't think I can do this one. And so, God, if there's any other way that we can do this, because I don't think I'm going to be able to stay for this particular part. I may go to the bathroom for this part of the movie. Y'all know when it's not your favorite part of the movie, you can check out a little bit, go to the bathroom, come back. He's ready to get up. God, I don't want to go back to school. And I understand you trying to make me better. I understand that we're on this path that you're trying to do for me. I understand that you're trying to make me into what you created me to be and mold me into something bigger and better. But you was there the last time I went to school. You was there when I went to school the first time, and I didn't do all that well. I had a 1.7 GPA, and then you trying to tell me I'm supposed to go back to school at this point. What am I supposed to do? I didn't do well the first time I went to school. I hate school. It is torturous to me. Sitting there, listening to somebody talk, this is boring. Why do we have to do this? If there's any other way, God, any way we can get around this school thing, I'm totally willing to do that. I'll take it. But if not, or better yet, God, I don't want to go to therapy. Ain't nothing in therapy for me but bad memories, bad emotions, bad feelings, all this stuff. I didn't move past. I said I'm done with it. I didn't cut it off. I didn't close it off. Y'all know what I'm saying. You didn't cut it off. You put it in the back room of your mind. You lock the door. You say, I ain't got to deal with that no more. Look at me, God. I'm well. I'm happy. I smile all the time. I got a good job. Got a car. I can drive. Why I got to go back through all of that stuff you're talking about? That's just going to make me mad about all these other things and whatnot. We're doing good, God. You've been working on me. My mind is better. I don't yell at folks as much anymore. I ain't just snapping off and beating up people. What therapy got to do with all this? I don't even believe in therapy or trust these people. Why do we got to do that if there's any other way? Any other way, God, we can get around this, please. Because I don't want to stay for this part. If we can do that. But if you say I got to, I know this one. God, you and I have been big all our lives. Since you made me, we've been big. And to this day, we still big. And so you telling me to go to the gym and to diet after we done tried Atkins, we done tried Weight Watchers, we done tried every other thing under the sun, and none of this stuff works. And so now here you telling me that I got a diet and that I got, God, I know what they said. I looked at the report. I heard what the doctor told me to do. But if there's any other way, Y'all know what way I'm talking about. If there's a prescription, if there's any kind of prescription that I can go to the doctor for, and just take a pill, you know what I'm saying? Just take a quick pill and y'all seen the commercials, you take a pill and it just eats away at all the stuff that's going on. If we can do that, God, I'm willing to do that. But if you say we got to do it the way that you're telling me, I guess I'm willing to do it that way. Keeping the faith and being obedient has led you here, and you find yourself in a struggle to stay in the course, and you know what needs to happen. You know what has to happen. And the truth of the matter is, you know it's got to be you. You are having a Jesus experience, and you're having a struggle to stay. But I need you to stay. Everybody say stay. Stay. I see people that left already. I need y'all to come back. I need you to stay. See, they ain't hearing us. I knew we was in the right spot. Jesus completes his prayer with no response from the Father. And then when he comes back to his disciples, his road dogs, his help, his support system, he finds them asleep on the job. I gave y'all a simple task. Stay here and stay away. And y'all can't even do that. And so he gets on Peter, poor Peter, because all of them asleep. But he tells Peter, you can't stay awake 1 hour. But this is the part that matters. He says, I need you to keep watch, and I need you to stay up and pray so that you don't give into temptation, for the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. And this is the root of the problem that we have with staying in our purpose. It's because your spirit is willing, but your body is weak. Right? Your spirit is willing. Your spirit's willing. Your mind's willing. Character's willing. Mindset is willing. Morals are willing. Your motives is willing. Your management. All of these things are willing. But equally, on the other side, this thing that you call your flesh, your feelings, your emotions, and everything else that you got going on, equally, and sometimes even more so, that's unwilling to stay. And that's the side that you want to really be on, because you don't want to stay in it either. And I told them at prayer week, I said, all these things that we did last year, being spiritually excellent, physically fit, and emotionally stable, and mentally sound, and socially connected, and relationally fruitful. Our spirit is willing to do all of that. It's the flesh, Pastor, that don't want to talk to nobody because I'm introverted and I don't really care what their conversation is going on about. It's my flesh that feels like I'm allowed to feel what I'm feeling because they wronged me and they said the wrong thing to me, and I should be able to feel how I feel, and I should be able to pop off on them and give them attitude and be unforgiving. That's my flesh that feels. It's my flesh that's upset about all the food and stuff, and that I should be, because that's how I cope. I eat, you know what I'm saying? And so I should be allowed to do all this. And really, it's McDonald's fault for putting all them preservatives and making me bloated and all this other stuff. And it's really their fault. That's really what the problem is. It's my flesh that has these mental conversations with people before I have the real conversation with them. And I didn't already played out what the conversation is going to be. So I already got an attitude with them about what they just said in my head that they ain't really said out of their own mouth. You know what I'm saying? And so it's my flesh that does all of it. It's unwilling to stay. It's a struggle to stay. And so Jesus leaves them a second time. And he goes and prays, and he says it again with an exclamation point. My Father, if this cup, because I don't think you heard me the first time, if this cup can be taken away from me unless I drink it, this time he didn't even say, not my will, because he didn't already reveal what his will was. I don't want to do this. My will is to get around this somehow, some way. But he says, your will be done. He's struggling, and he's prayed twice, y'all. Yeah. Twice, with no audible response from his Father. That's what's happened, right? Father, I've told you I can't stay at this job no longer. We didn't do this. It's time to go. I cannot stay here any longer. God, I don't think you heard me the first time I prayed this 3 months ago, but maybe you'll hear me now, because I did say it 3 months ago and you didn't do anything. So let me lay it out for you plain, because I don't think you're looking at my situation clearly, right? God, they got me training the person that's supposed to be my boss. They done brought in somebody after I applied for the job, and they told me I can't be that in that position, but they done brought somebody else who don't know nothing about what it is that we do here, and they done gave them to me to train them for this person to be the person that's getting ready to be my boss. God, I cannot stay here any longer. I cannot do this right here. I'm overworked, overlooked, and underpaid. It's time for me to go, God, and I need to go, and I don't understand why you won't release me from this job. I don't know why you won't release me from this job. Don't get, but if you need me to stay, I will. Father, if there's any way for me to leave this relationship, this marriage that we got going on, please reveal it. Father, I'll tell you, I promise you, I can be miserable by myself. I promise you I can. I can do this by myself. I can be sad and depressed and upset and frustrated and miserable and mad by myself. I promise you I can. I promise you I can do this by myself. And I have done what you've asked me to do. I prayed and I heard the word you told me. You told me to be a good spouse and to be a good partner. So you know what I did, God? I became the forgiver. God, I became the peacemaker. God, I became the compromiser. God, I did what you asked me to do. But you know what? It takes two to tango. And they don't want to two-step. They don't want to dance. They don't want to dip. They don't want to do anything that is required to make this relationship work. And so, God, if there's any way that I can get up out of this thing, I need for you to go ahead and reveal it to me. But if not, and you telling me I need to stay here, I will. Father, I'm failing them. I need y'all to know God hears your prayers. God, I'm failing them. I don't think you're paying attention to what's happening right now. I'm failing them. I'm failing my family. I'm failing in my marriage. I'm failing in my business. I'm failing in this ministry that you told me I was supposed to be leading. God, I am failing them. They see it. I hear what they're saying. I hear their mumbles. I hear their grumbles. I hear everything that's going on. God, I am failing them. And I don't think I can stay in this position of leadership that you've put me in with all these hardships and these losses that I continue to keep taking. And so I'm praying to you again, God, is there anybody else that can come and take this spot? God, I promise you I'll move right on out the way. But if you don't have nobody else, I'm not going to leave them like this. And so if I got to stay, I will. Dana, this is where I would have got frustrated, is the second prayer. The second prayer is where I would have got frustrated. And I would have started asking certain questions. And my primary question would have been, why should I stay? Why should I stay here? Why should I keep doing this? Remember, I told y'all we got to stay, right? So y'all stay. Stay. Why? Why should I stay? And God gave me some answers because God is good like that. And so the first answer he told me, he said, you got to stay for him. You got to stay for him. Pastor Mariah 2 weeks ago preached a really, really good message. I wish y'all were there to hear it, but it's available for you on Aliante's website. You can go back and re-listen to it. But it was called Jesus Knows the Help That He Chose. It was really good. In the beginning, he went into this whole thing about how when God decided to call you, there was some deliberation. He said much deliberation about when God decided to call you. Meaning what he did was, Matthias, when he decided to call you, he laid out everything that was Matthias on the table. And he looked at all of it, all at the same time. And he looked at your good, he looked at your bad, he looked at your nasty, he looked at your mediocrity, he looked at your heart, he looked at your strengths, he looked at your weaknesses, he looked at everything, and he came to the conclusion and said, you know what? You are the right person for this purpose. He looked at the purpose, he looked at you, and he said, this is a match made in heaven. That's who I need for this particular spot. And he called you out of obscurity and put you on this path in your purpose because he said you were the right person for the purpose. Jesus had the will to stay in what God had called him to because his biggest supporter, his biggest provider, and his greatest ally, friend, and protector chose, knew, and believed that he was the right person for this purpose. And he was right. And guess what? He's right about you too. God needs you to stay for him because he chose you specifically. He plucked you out of obscurity, out of all these different people, and put you on this path that he specially crafted just for you to arrive at this particular point so that you can do what he's called you to do because you're the right person for this purpose. I need you to stay. Everybody say stay. Stay. Say it to yourself. Stay. Stay. I need you to believe it for yourself. Say stay. Stay. Because I know you want to leave, but God said I need you to stay for him because he picked the right person for you in this spot. Then he said, I need you to stay for them. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. They the reason y'all want to leave. I know. It's them. It's not you. It's them. They the reason you want to stay. You don't want to stay. They the reason why you don't have the will to stay here anymore. They the reason why you want to get away from it. They the reason why you want to go off and move to the other side of the country. They the reason why you want to move out right now. They the reason why you want to quit. They the reason why you want to get up out of it. I know they're the reason that you want to leave. I know what's going through your mind, that everybody got something to say about what you do. Everybody got something to say about how you taking care of mama. Everybody got something to say about how you raising your kids. Everybody got something to say about how you choosing to do this or do that. Everybody got something to say about this ministry. But when they went out over the pulpit and they said, does anybody want to volunteer? Ain't nobody raised their hand. But now that you in it, now everybody got something to say about how it looked, how it's running, what this looks like, what's going on over here. Everybody got something to say about how I'm leading myself, how I'm leading my marriage, how I'm leading this ministry. You know what puzzles me is how everybody got something to say about pastors and preachers as if we don't turn around on Monday morning and our alarm don't go off at 6 a.m. like we got to get up and go to work just like y'all do. Everybody, but somehow I don't know who these people are that's getting over on the church making all this money. They claim they out there, and I'm not saying nobody's lying. All I'm saying is my alarm go off at 6 a.m. on Monday just like y'all. But everybody's got something to say about this. I know. And so you're sitting here saying, Lord, if they got all this to say, let them come do it then. Because truthfully, I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to go. Y'all can have it. I promise you, you can have it. I know. But he says, stay for them. I need you to stay. Stay. The Lord had to remind me that this has always been about the big picture. And what happens when you're in a situation that's really testing your faith and really pulling on you and hitting all the right buttons all at the right time, it's very easy for you to zone in on that thing and lose out on the big picture. The way that he worded it to me was he brought this quote back that I heard a long time ago, and I loved it. This lady told this guy, he said, you know what the problem is with the world today? She said, people don't no longer want to plant trees that they're no longer going to feel the shade of. You don't want to plant no tree that you don't actually gonna feel the shade from. If you ain't gonna benefit from what it is that you getting ready to do or what you got going on a day-to-day basis, you don't want no parts of it. If it's for them, y'all gotta realize that used to be the way people thought about it. I'm building up something for them. This is for the children that are coming later. This is for the future. This now, everything is about me and mine. If it don't benefit me and mine, I don't want no parts of it. It's a waste of my time. God says, I need to remind you, it's always been about planting trees that you ain't gonna get no fruit from or be able to feel the shade of. He wanted me to remind you, it was you that prayed. It was you that prayed and asked me for help, for mercy, and for grace for your family. That was you. You prayed that. And so what I did was I gave them you. That's what I did. You asked for grace and mercy and all these things for your family, and I said, perfect. I know the perfect person for that. You. I gave them you. Ain't it funny that you got the extra room? I gave you a house with an extra room. Ain't that funny? So now that it's time to take care of grandma, you got an extra room. Ain't that funny how that works? That it's time to bring somebody else into the house because they ain't doing all right. Ain't that funny that your schedule seems to fit the right schedule? That you can go and pick the kids up and drop the kids off, and they ain't even your kids, but you're calling them your kids because now you got. Ain't it funny that you the one that somehow has the heart for everything that's going wrong in the family, and somehow your eyes is the only one that can see everything that's going on? Ain't it funny how that you prayed for them. So stay for them. That's what you prayed for. You got to remember, you prayed for that job. Let it sit. 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 Let it sit, because he cooking. He cooking tonight. Let it sit. Yeah. Yeah. That was you in prayer week. Yeah. Yeah. Face first on the altar, praying for that job. That was you. That was you. That was you praying for that job. And then you realize this job wasn't what you prayed for. And so that was you again praying months later about to fix the problems at the job because they done frustrated you and got you all upset, right? That was you about asking God to help you with the mess that's going on at your job, right? And I gave them you. I gave them you. For you to train them. For you to lead them. For you to fix the stuff that's going wrong. For you to be the moral compass. For you to be the leader that don't get paid like the leader. I gave them you. You prayed for this. And you prayed for them. So God is saying, stay for them. And I know you may not be getting the benefits of these things that he's asking of you to do. This thing that you're having a struggle to stay in. You can see that it ain't going to directly benefit you at all. But I need you to be able to stay and plant some seeds into some folk that you may not even see the benefit from. But God is asking for you to do it for them and to do it for him. I need you to stay. Say stay. Stay. I thought about a different part of my girl Sha'Carri Richardson. At prayer week, I talked about Sha'Carri Richardson. I'm not going to go all the way back through what I talked about. But Sha'Carri Richardson, for those that don't know, the Olympics is on. She was supposed to be our girl that was supposed to win the 100 meters. She's a big personality, all of that. She took second. If you went back a little bit in her story, Sha'Carri lost her mom in 2020. And when she lost her mom, she going through some hard stuff, made a poor decision. And she got caught with marijuana in her system. So she lost her mother, and then she lost her eligibility for the Olympics, for the Tokyo Games, and then she lost her dream, and then she lost all these things all in the same time, right? But she had the will to stay, and so she stayed, and she showed up next year after going through all that and was terrible, absolutely terrible. And in that time frame, she was taken last. When she was dead last, the girl she used to blow out the water, and everybody that had a platform and those that didn't, like myself. Sha'Carri, you ever see this? I am so sorry for what I said about you. I love you, and I will buy you dinner. Everybody had something poor to say about this young lady. She was dumb. She was stupid. She was ignorant. She was arrogant. She was undisciplined. She was foolish. Everybody said she was done. She was over. It was up for her. All of that, right? And then last year at the World Championships, here comes Sha'Carri Richardson all over again, and she's blowing everybody out the water, putting up times all over the place. And wouldn't you know it, now that it's time for the Olympics, here come those same people, myself included, that want her to put on the good US of A and go out there and represent for us. After we done talked so bad about this young lady. But what she did was she understood that if God has something for you, and if God has brought you to it, if you have the will to stay, it may not always be beneficial for you. What she showed us was all those other young ladies, listen, stay on this thing. They gonna talk bad about you one way or another, and that don't really matter. But when it comes down to it, they're gonna need you to do something for them that may not directly benefit you. Now, she's benefiting in the Olympics right now, but what I'm saying of all this is she had to stay in this to show other young ladies how to deal when the media turns on you. So I need you to stay. Stay for them. The last one he gave me was stay because you can. Yep. Stay because you can. Verse 43, it says, when Jesus returned to them again, he found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes open. Couldn't. That's what the Bible said. They could not keep their eyes open. The Bible says that they couldn't. The simplest of tasks. These are the same disciples that told Jesus, I would never betray you. Same disciples that told Jesus, you ain't going to go nowhere that I ain't going to go. Same disciples that told Jesus, whatever it is, I want to drink from the same cup that you drink from. Same disciples that told Jesus that they was going to follow him to the ends of the earth. Can't even do the simplest of tasks. You get what I'm saying? You can't pick mama up one time. You can't watch the kids one time. You can't help me out with this one time. It's the simplest of tasks that I'm asking you to do, and you cannot do it at all. They cannot. And God wanted me to let you know, y'all, it's on you. And the reason why it's on you is because they can't or they won't. Doesn't really matter which one it is. It's the same result. They can't or they won't, but you can. In this part of the text, going back to what I said about him being a man, Jesus is looking ahead and he can see what's getting ready to happen. Now, the divinity of him understands the magnitude of the moment. If I could eisegete the text for the second, I would imagine the man side of him is also looking at that and is doing some calculations, BJ. And I'm pretty sure the man side of him was like, well, wait a minute, we God anyway. So regardless, we going back to glory anyway. No matter how you slice it or dice it. If it's on the cross or I get stung by a bee and have an allergic reaction, we're going back to the right seat of the Father, whichever way that we look at it. So as the man side of me, glory was already solidified for me. So why do I have to continue to keep going this particular way? And what it was in this story, the divine side of him was always going to stick to the plan. We're talking about the man side of him. The man side of him had to find the will to stay. Coming back from that prayer with the Father 3 times with no response, which is not true. He did get a response. The response was no. That's what God told him. No, I'm not changing nothing. But coming from that, the man side of him somehow had what he needed to do to be able to go do something for some other people. He had to go do something for some folks that despised him, hated him, was going to spit on him, was going to talk bad about him, was going to say he never existed for all of time until he comes back. He had to go and do this thing for some disciples that would leave him. Some of them was going to betray him, and some of them couldn't even stay awake on the simplest of tasks. But he knew that they couldn't do what he needed them to do then. Then they couldn't. But what happened after he did what he did? The disciples couldn't even stay awake. But by the time you get to the end of the New Testament, nearly all of those same disciples went the same way he went. Almost all of them did exactly the same thing he did. If y'all read y'all Bible, the disciples go out in some horrendous ways. These are the same men and women that in this moment we're talking about can't stay awake, Cat. They can't stay awake, and they spend the rest of their lives doing exactly what he did, bringing the gospel, preaching to people, going from town to town, being ran out of this place, being ridiculed out of that one, only to arrive at a horrendous death the same way that Christ did. They couldn't did. What God's trying to get you to understand is that they can't now, but you can. And if you do, if you stay, guess what? They will eventually. If you do it now, they can do it later. It's about planting these trees that you're not going to sit under. God was already back on his throne sitting next to the Father when his disciples got killed. He was already, but it was because he was able to stay then. They can't do it now, but you can. It reminds me of this poem that I was taught in college. It was called Be Strong. I don't know if y'all ever heard it, but it goes like this. It says, be strong, for we're not here to play, dream, or drift. We got hard work to do and heavy loads to lift. This is the part that gets me. It says, shun not the struggle, for it is God's gift to be strong. They can't do it, but you can. And it is God's gift that you can. So I need you to stay. Say stay. 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 How do I stay? You do exactly what God did. He went to the Father in his weakness. Haven't y'all had that moment where you was complaining and you was at your ropes end and you went and you cried out before God, and really, in all honesty, God didn't say or do nothing? Right? And then it's time for you to do what you got to do, and you telling God, I can't do this as you're doing it. Right? You complaining about it. God, I told you I can't do this. I said I ain't gonna be able to be here one more day. And here's one more day. You at the place doing exactly what you said you couldn't do. God, I'm telling you, and I can't stand her. You bring her over here, and here she come right on over there, and you're doing exactly what you said you could not do. It's something about taking your weakness to the Father that you walk away from that conversation with him with exactly what it is that you need, that you did not have before. The strength to stay, the will to stay is rooted in your ability to take your weakness to the Father. In scripture, it says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest upon me. That's why, for Christ's sake, I delight in my weaknesses and my insults and my persecutions and my hardships. Because in those times when I am weak, he's made strong. There is something supernatural about going to your Father and letting him know, I don't have it. Yeah. He knows. And somehow, even if he won't take it away from you, he gives you in your madness. I need y'all to catch that part about it. In your madness, that was a man that went to that cross as well. It was God, but that was also a man that went to that cross as well. But that man had to take his weakness to the Father first to be able to have the will to do what it is that God's called him to. And so, that is how we should be able to get what I call the will to stay.